The agenda is sponsored by Newcastle County Government.
The number twos in state government, municipalities, and the county. Who's really in charge? I'm Kerwin Gaines, and welcome to the agenda. This week, we're fortunate enough to have Vanessa Phillips, the Chief Administrative Officer for Newcastle County. She's going to talk about her experiences as the number two person in the county, her responsibilities, why she became that, and how she became that. All of that this week on the agenda. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. It is an honor to have you. So what we're doing, very simple, is we are touching base with all the important chief of staffs for our state. We've made it clear on previous episodes that the chief of staff for the governor is a female. The chief of staff for Mayor Przicki is a female, the largest city here in the state. And you've made it very clear to me, you are not the chief of staff.
That's true.
For Newcastle County.
No.
But the chief administrative officer, and a very strong number two, I think that's fair to say.
That's fair.
Okay. Is also a female. So tell us a little bit about that experience.
So as the Chief Administrative Officer for Newcastle County, I manage the day-to-day operations of all of county government, stemming from our Newcastle County Police Department to paramedics, 911 communications, parks, libraries, our sewer system, managing everything for the county. So it's been a great experience for me.
How did you get, so I'm hearing all this, and we're going to talk about stress here in a second, because I don't know how you're handling all that. But how did you get there? How did you become the Chief Administrative Officer?
So I know you've heard the term luck equals opportunity plus preparation.
I've lived by it.
You live by it, okay. Well, that's my story. That's
Okay.
my story. I did not even envision running Newcastle County. I was with the state government for a number of years, had the opportunity to serve as Deputy Secretary of Labor under Secretary Patrice Gilliam Johnson. Matt Meyer, after he was elected county executive, asked me to join his cabinet as the Chief Human Resources Officer. And I was delighted. I had heard a lot about county government, heard a lot about Matt Meyer and all of his goals to transform county government. And at the time, Kathy Jennings was the CAO of the county. And my first year, I got in there, learned a lot about county government, and then Kathy announced that she was running for Attorney General. And I said, wow, you know, that's great. Never thought in my wildest dreams that Matt would ask me to serve as the CAO. And initially he asked me to serve as acting CAO while he did a national search, and he conducted that search. And then came back to me about 90 days later and said, you're doing such a great job, I don't think I need to look any further, you're my CAO. And so in 2018, I was appointed as the first Black CAO of Newcastle County.
So how heavy is that crown that you're wearing, being the first Black CAO of Newcastle County and a female? So obstacles, could you talk a little bit about those?
Sure. So a lot of people do not realize I am not a native Delawarean. I am originally from Washington, D.C., born and raised.
We won't hold it against you. You're on the agenda.
Born and raised, but Delaware has become my home. I've been here for quite a long time. I'm a graduate of the University of Delaware, but I am not a part of the who's who club here in Delaware. I didn't set out to be in politics. When I first started working here in Delaware after serving as a prosecutor in DC for nearly 6 years, I started out at the Department of Transportation. I was really happy as a regulatory specialist, representing DELDAT at administrative hearings, and then things started to happen a little differently for me. And I was told over and over again, oh, you need to join this group. You need to get to know these people. But I was really focused on having work-life balance. And so after opportunity after opportunity, I was presented with this wonderful job And I've been able to, be able to handle the challenges that come along with running the county, especially when I'm not a native Delawarean and a lot of people do not know me. So it has been difficult in some sense in terms of working my way into rooms I normally wouldn't be invited in.
And why do you think you wouldn't be invited in those rooms? Is it just because of not being a native Delawarean, or is there more to it than that?
I think I had a non-traditional track into getting to where I am in terms of coming from state government, not necessarily being in county government, not necessarily knowing a lot of the elected officials. And so I know that there are people who may not be comfortable approaching me because I'm not a person that they're familiar with. So that has been a challenge. And then trying to convince people that, I'm approachable. I'm someone that they can get to know. I am someone that they can call on as a resource, and I'm here to help. So over the last few years, I've been working really hard to build positive relationships with people that do not know me and people I'm unfamiliar with, and getting to know the who's who of Delaware.
And there has to be a strong level of trust between you and Matt Meyer, our county executive. And tell us a little bit about that. I mean, there has to be some sort of bond there, working together and trusting one another with some of the crucial issues that you have. You mentioned that you're handling all of public safety for the most part in doing that oversight. Any legal issues that the county may have, I mean, you're there, and the daily issues that you face. And tell us a little bit about that relationship there.
Well, I will say I had to earn Matt's trust.
Right.
I did not know him when he appointed me as Chief Human Resources Officer. I have to thank Governor Markell, given the fact that I worked at the Department of Labor during a very challenging time at that agency. I was able to really show what I was capable of in terms of dealing with charges of discrimination, really going in there and changing the culture. And so when Matt was looking for a human resources professional, I was the first person that Drew Fennell and Governor Markell recommended. And so over time, I believe I was able to earn the county executive's trust by my work ethic and my advice, my trusted advice as to how to handle some of the challenges at the county. And so I believe as we've gotten to know each other and understand each other's work style, we think differently. I think that actually helps our working relationship because I'm able to bring a different perspective. Like I said, I haven't always been in Delaware, so I'll talk about when I worked at the DC Police Department in the General Counsel's office and some of the challenges we had there, and being able to draw from my work experience, not only here with state government, but also in Washington, D.C.
So how important, when you're talking about all these different experiences, that to me goes to diversity in the workforce. I mean, flat out, you need it. How important is that, would you say, especially in the county?
It's very important. It's very important because I think over time people get comfortable with what they call groupthink. They are from the same area, they grew up, in the same schools. And so when you have different opinions around the table, people who bring different experiences from other areas, I believe the conversations are a lot richer. The discussions are a lot deeper. And if people are open to doing some things differently, I think it can definitely result in a better, government when you have that.
Let DART do the driving. DART First State provides transportation that is clean, safe, reliable, and affordable. Plan your trip and get real-time bus information with the free DART Transit app. Scan your phone to pay your fare with the free DART Pass app. So what are you waiting for? Try transit today. Visit dartfirststate.com or call 1-800-652-DART.
Auto accident, medical negligence, work injury. Contact Team Tice, your Delaware personal injury lawyers. Leroy Tice in Wilmington, Delaware, serving and supporting the people of Delaware. Call 302-489-2400. That's 302-489-2400. online at teamtice.com.
This message is brought to you by Newcastle County Government.
Many wonder, what is a variant? A variant is a mutation or a change in the genetic sequence of the virus. Some of our methods of treating COVID-19 become ineffective. If we were to simply get vaccinated, we could decrease the spread and the likelihood that a mutation would form in the first place. Let's get vaccinated.
First and foremost, I want to know more about you. I want to know more about your agenda here in the county. But I think it's important because of today that we talk about COVID in the county. What would be your advice to anyone in the state and in the county right now in regards to protecting themselves from the variant and those that have not become immunized?
Get vaccinated. Get vaccinated. Get vaccinated. If you've already gotten vaccinated, make sure family members, all family members who are eligible to get vaccinated unless their doctor tells them not to, make sure they get vaccinated. Friends, neighbors, talk about it. I know it's a strange thing. I know there's HIPAA. I know there's privacy. I'm very open talking to friends saying, hey, you should get vaccinated. And if they're against it, have a conversation with them. I've found over time a lot of people who are hostile to it, they're willing to listen. They see that, wait a second, they said awful things would happen, and now we are 8-9 months later. They said it wouldn't work, right? Vaccinations seem to be working. So the most important thing, the most important message we can give anyone right now is please get vaccinated.
Right. So what is the county doing to do for outreach?
So we, a little over a year ago, took on an unusual role. There was a public health crisis in our community. It required resources that the federal government, state government didn't have for the people of this county. So as a result, we stepped up. We traditionally in county government, in fact, in the 60-year history, 55-year history of Newcastle County government, we've never really engaged in public health with the exception of our paramedics.
We never had to.
We never had to, that's right. There wasn't a global pandemic that suddenly descended upon the people of our county. So we, a year and a half ago, basically put aside everything we were working on. This is in March of 2020. And I said we have 3 goals. Number 1 is to keep our communities healthy. Anything we can do to eradicate this virus from our community. The second was we had to protect the most vulnerable. And third was we had to plant the seeds to build back better, build a better post-COVID community than pre-COVID. As a result, we did some extraordinary things that have been recognized nationally, tops among over 3,000 counties in this country. We provided among the best testing. Open, free community testing sites, nothing up your nose. Remember there was that brain tickler?
Right.
We didn't do that. It was high quality saliva-based testing. We performed over 500,000 tests across our county. I know a lot of people watching went to some of those testing sites. The next step is we actually built a testing lab, a $5 million lab in partnership with Delaware State University. I started to say, wait, we're spending tens of millions of dollars on these test sites, sending them to labs in Texas, California, Washington, D.C. Why not right here in Delaware? We met with President Tony Allen, who's a visionary in his own right. We put together this plan with Dr. Neil Hochstein, Dr. Joan Coker, and we actually built a lab. So right now, a lot of the testing that we do is actually performed, analyzed right on Kirkwood Highway by Delaware State graduates.
And that's still happening today.
Still happening today. And it also, having made that decision, has put us in a great position for any additional wave that comes, or hopefully not, but if there's the next virus, the next pandemic that comes through, Delaware State now in partnership with the county is very well prepared.
So can people find information about the COVID vaccination and testing on your website?
They can. They should go to newcastle.de.gov. I also encourage them just to continue monitoring Healthy Communities, the Division of Public Health website. That often has the latest site. We do what we can to promote it, to amplify their messaging.
I hope that this time next year we're going to have a conversation and COVID isn't a part of it.
Let's hope so. Whether it is or not, let's be honest, Kerwin, it's up to all of us,
You're right.
It's up to all of us.
You're right.
Do we switch sides or we keep?
You go to the other side,
Other
Matt.
side.
You go to the ad side, and you'll serve diagonally. Again. Good serve. Matt, nice shot. That's 2 bounces.
It's 2 bounces. I got the point.
Two bounces.
Or I got
So the serve goes to Mr. Matt Meyer. And we have so the server score gets called first. We have 0 serving 1.
Oh, we're playing prison rules. Understood now. That's fine.
What'd you call them?
Prison rules.
Gotcha.
Very nice
See
shot.
that spin?
Matt with a little
Cut.
bit of spin. Matt
One
still
cut.
serving.
Did you say cut?
Score. Matt, you
Here's
called the
this way.
score. One serving, one.
One serving, one.
Now, Matt, serving
I
to
was,
the ad
well,
side.
I was here, what, 15 hours yesterday practicing?
Yes,
Is that
you
right?
were, almost, something like that.
Oh,
Okay.
the serve spin didn't work.
You being involved in the community, COVID aside, has not been something new for you. You've been doing this for a long time. Part of us knowing a bit Matt Meyer. When did this all begin for you?
Man, well, I mean, a lot of credit obviously goes to mom and dad, who instilled in me the importance of giving, that we all have an obligation to our community. I really wanted to teach public school coming out of college. I got a little sidetracked. I also wanted, in addition to wanting to teach, I wanted to see something completely different. As a young kid, I always wanted to go to Africa. I thought it was really cool. I learned in middle school, teacher Mrs. Bush taught me about a snow-capped mountain right on the equator in Africa. And I remember that really struck me, that wait, the equator is supposed to be hot and there's snow on the equator. Like, I gotta see that at some point in my life. So in college, I had the opportunity to go to Kenya. I ended up really enjoying it. I thought living in Kisii, Kenya, in villages there was transformational for me. So as soon as I graduated college, I actually went back for a year. I ended up starting a small business making sandals out of used tires in a very poor community in Nairobi, Kenya.
And that was successful.
Yeah, we grew to about 30 employees. We were at the right end of sort of e-commerce. We started right about the same time Amazon.com started. Of course, they were just selling books at the time, but we were able to start selling online, and that transformed a number of lives there in Korogocho, Kenya, in this little shanty town outside Nairobi.
So what brought you back to the United States?
So I wanted to come back and teach, so I ended up in a program called Teach for America. I initially spent 3 years teaching fourth grade, and then years later, after I went to law school, I ended up a diplomat in Iraq. I was embedded with the U.S. Army in Mosul, Iraq during the war in 2010. And then I came back home and ended up teaching once again at Prestige Academy in Wilmington.
In dealing with better government, dealing with different things, I have to ask, how was it and being a chief administrative officer during COVID? I mean, during this this is something that we've never experienced as a country, let alone as a county and a state, and trying to make this happen and keep people safe and keep people working or not working or the lights on, basically. How was that?
It was difficult, but not as difficult as many may think, because I would just say Matt Meyer's done a great job in terms of putting together a very competent team. We were able to transition very quickly to telecommuting in our government. Of course, we needed our police to come to work, our paramedics, our 911 operators, and our parks crews. But for the most part, we were able to transition our operations from in-person to virtual very quickly, making sure that we were taking care of our employees. We talked about COVID testing, not only for our employees, but for the public. And partnering with Curative in order to provide testing sites throughout Newcastle County. And I just have to give credit to our entire team for coming together and making that happen.
Okay. So we talked about the importance of the values, working together, strong leadership. I know you do not want to be the last CAO for the county. So through that, it requires some mentorship, right?
That's true.
And being an example. And not everybody wants that, right? It's hard, but in a lot of positions, like yours and mine, we don't have a choice. People are watching us, right? And we have to be able to pass on that knowledge. What are you doing to pass on that knowledge? We both have daughters, as we discussed, right? So I want my daughter to see a strong role model like you, like Miss Tanya Washington from the city. What are you doing to ensure that you are being that role model for folks and bringing them in? Is it internships? Tell me.
So as a matter of fact, we do have internships at the county, and I have brought on young women who are interested in politics, who are interested in the law. to work in our office, throughout the school year or during the summer. Also through our Newcastle County Summer Youth Employment Program, making sure that I'm keeping in touch with some of the young women who are interested in the fields where I've been lucky to work in throughout my career. Also being involved in nonprofit organizations. I was the board member for Girl Scouts of Chesapeake Bay, making sure that I was visiting some of the troops and developing a relationship with some of the young people. Now I serve as the board development chair for Girl Scouts of Chesapeake Bay. I've worked with Habitat for Humanity of Newcastle County, meeting some of the families who have been lucky to get a home through Habitat for Humanity. And then I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and our Middletown alumni chapter has a number of programs for the youth. And I've been able to speak at some of those programs to tell them about my experience coming from a single parent home, first person in my family to go to college, and then working my way up to being CAO of the county. So I am constantly thinking about how I can give back, how I can be a great role model for young women who look like me.
Well, you're definitely doing it. So tell me, what's next for you in this? You've given an awesome pedigree of everything that you've done, but you have not talked about the future. What's next for you?
What's next for me? So I've been so focused on the present.
Right.
I haven't given much thought about what's next.
I'm not going to see your face on a yard sign.
You won't see my face on a yard
Vanessa
sign.
Phillips?
No, I'm more of a behind-the-scenes person.
That's the same thing Miss Washington said, but I just want to, okay.
But I have thought about going back to my roots. I have always wanted to be an attorney. I was focused on that in elementary school.
A litigator?
A litigator. And I would say I started out wanting to be a defense attorney. So my mom is a retired DC police officer. And I said, she will put them in jail, but I'm going to get them out. But over time, I developed an interest for prosecuting. And so my first opportunity to get in the courtroom, I loved it. And I've been thinking about that, going back to my roots, going back to the courtroom, either, as a prosecutor or as a judge.
Well, that's public service.
It is.
And it keeps in line for everything that you've done so far. So I think that that's awesome. Now, I can't let you get away. I have to ask, excuse me if I'm being too personal, but are you vaccinated?
I am vaccinated, and I'm scheduled for my booster shot next week.
And is the county helping with vaccinations in the community?
Not at this moment. We've had a lot of discussions about how we can partner with some, facilities that are in Delaware to provide that service, but not at this point.
Right. But I want to make it clear, and correct me if I'm wrong, the vaccine is safe. Don't believe the misinformation. If you can get vaccinated, get vaccinated. If you can't do it for yourself, do it for a loved one, but do it soon.
I agree totally.
This message is brought to you by Newcastle County Government.
While we have vaccines that are highly effective, some folks are non-vaxxers, and I get that, but at the end of the day, it's not about you. It's about that 5-year-old, that 6-year-old that don't have any options. Should they get infected and you be unable to hold their hand in the ICU simply because you chose not to be vaccinated, that's a tough pill to swallow.
As soon as I got here, I just felt the warm embrace of the community, man. Like what y'all got going on is wonderful. And no wonder y'all called the work group, because y'all putting that work in. For real, seriously, y'all getting the work done.
We are committed to creating the best Riverside we can with the community, for the community.
This message is brought to you by Newcastle County Government.
Hi, I'm Dr. Neil Hochstein at ENT and Allergy of Delaware. We're very fortunate to have been protected by the vaccine for COVID-19, but I still encourage you, when you're indoors, when you're around groups of people, wear your mask. New variants have resulted in breakthrough infections, and while you may be protected and you may not get sick, you can still pass it on to your friends and neighbors who are a little bit more vulnerable than you. Stay safe, wear a mask when indoors and around people. Thank you.
Another great episode of The Agenda. Vanessa Phillips is going to be great for the county, and possibly it could be Judge Phillips, who knows. But the responsibilities of the number twos as we're going through are vast. They're dealing with everything from public safety to our whole drainage issues, and that's just in one day. Let us not forget about those responsible for keeping the counties and states and municipalities going. I'm Kerwin Gaines, and thank you for watching The Agenda.